Hi, good evening, and welcome to the Minority Report once again here on Tobago Updates. My name is Marlon David, and I'm your host for the Minority Report program. And this evening, we're going to have a very interesting show lined up for you. And let me first of all encourage you to view this program on the Tobago Updates website, the Tobago Updates YouTube channel, and I think the most commonly used is the Tobago Updates Facebook page. If you have comments and questions, which we will in fact encourage you for this evening's program to send your comments, your questions, and so on, you can WhatsApp those questions to 284 6597. That is 284 6597. So let me encourage you once again to share the live link for the Tobago Updates Facebook page. You can just log on to the Facebook page and you will see at the top of the viewing list the Minority Report show this evening. And as we begin to roll out this evening's program, I want to do some administrative stuff. And firstly, I want to send out some condolences. This evening, we know a breaking story this morning. We want to send some condolences out to the York family on the passing of Garth York this morning. Some strange circumstances surrounding his death. However, as we know, death is death in any circumstance, and however you look at it, it's never something that is actually prepared for. And our hearts go out to the family, the York family and close friends on this untimely incident. And so we extend our condolences on behalf of the minority leader and the minority councillor to that family. Also, we want to send out condolences once again to our dear brother Dobson, whose wife as well would have passed away, I think earlier today. This also came as somewhat of a shock when I got the news this evening, and we really want to stand around him. He has been a true sense of support and stability in the party, the People's National Movement, and Dobson has always been someone that when you call on him, I've never seen him complain and not carry out the task. You may get some complaint based on the time that you call and so on if it's last minute, but he has always been a true sense of support and a real stable foundation member of the party, and so we also want to rally around our dear brother Dobson. He lives in the Plymouth area, the housing. So those of us who are now getting the news, I want you to at least be able to reach out to him and to also extend condolences, and let's see whatever levels of support that we can lend to his family. Unfortunate news that came this evening. So Brother Dobson, please accept our condolences, and again we look forward to reaching out to you and extending whatever sort of support. And that is on behalf of the Minority Council, the minority leader and the minority councillor in this time of grief and bereavement. We also want to move on, and again, we have a lot in the news taking place in terms of Tobagonians. But on top of that list, this evening in the congratulations segment, what I call the What's Good moment, I want us to really extend heartfelt congratulations to Joel Positive Murray, cupping 5 awards at the recently held Gospel Marlin Awards in Nassau, Bahamas. Now, I mean, this is it's a feat that I think has been unmatched, and Joel Murray, as he's affectionately known in the music industry as Positive, has continued to represent Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago across the world and the globe. And more importantly, and I think that this is something that he of himself would say, beyond representing Trinidad and Tobago, he represents Christ, and he represents everything that speaks to positivity. If you look at his clothing, even in one of his videos recently, it says Jesus everything. And yes, the director is pulling up some images there of his hall. I have to call it that because not often do you see any one individual artist coming away with 5 awards. It's literally as if he won everything that could have been given on the night. So we really want to congratulate Joel Positive Murray, hailing from the east of Tobago, and I know some persons are definitely going to try to take credit for that. The east of Tobago, all the way as far as Charlottesville, come down to Mount St. George, where his relatives reside, and so on. So the East continues to produce first-class and world-class Tobagonians representing the island and representing the gospel of Jesus Christ across the Caribbean and by extension the world. So we want to really extend congratulations to Joel Murray. Positive, continue doing what you're doing and continue to soar. And I trust that as we see the example set by Positive, that many of our young persons as well would understand that it's not about looking at what the challenges are, but it's looking at what opportunities can come from the challenges that we face. And I trust that at some point in time we're going to have Joel on the program to speak and share a bit about his life and his experiences and challenges on the journey to becoming who he is becoming. We also want to extend some congratulations to TPAC CEO Elvis Rajman. A brilliant interview yesterday morning on Tobago Updates. We want to really congratulate him on strategic leadership and confident leadership, as it were. And I think that based on what we've been seeing unfolding daily and weekly with TPAC, we can definitely say that the leadership of the organization is in fact in good hands. And again, I want to thank the vision and the foresight of the previous administration in terms of assembling this team of persons to begin to take the creatives further in the island of Tobago, but represent throughout Trinidad and Tobago. And we see on the horizon the region and international. I know that right now they're presently hard at work preparing for the opening gala of the heritage season. And we look forward to some sterling performances, again setting the benchmark really high throughout Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean for the performing arts industry. So congratulations to Elvis Rajman and TPAC, your team at TPAC, for excellent work, and we continue to look forward to great things coming from you all. And finally, in our list of congratulations this evening, we want to, as the Minority Council, congratulate Tobago Updates Network. And oftentimes it's easy to forget the persons behind the camera, but we want to say that we really appreciate and congratulate Tobago Updates team on the work that they've been doing so far. We've seen a real transformation in the media industry in the island, and we've seen them branching out into what would have previously been uncharted territories and taking media into a new realm and a new dimension. And so we want to encourage the leadership team at Tobago Updates and those who are the supporting cast to continue doing what they're doing. We're seeing quite a lot unfolding. We see youth programming and that kind of thing, and we know there's a lot more to come. And we, as the Minority Council, feel a sense of gratitude to Tobago Updates for us having the opportunity to share this platform as we continue to press forward in our purpose and the mandate of the Minority Council to bring that type of advocacy and education to the members of the public and the island of Tobago. So that's it this evening for congratulations. Let me encourage you, those who are viewing, let's continue to share the live. We're going to go for a short break. And when we come back, interesting guest. He's been with us previously, but we're going to have an exclusive with him this evening as we discuss some things that are further into his territory and his function. So continue to stay logged on, stay locked on, share the live, invite as many persons to come and be a part of what we're doing. We'll be back soon.
Come, there we go to Tobago, that paradise, bung by Robinson Crusoe. And it is said, it's the land of tomorrow. Princess Margaret say, come to Tobago for holiday. Now the whole world sing, come to Tobago for holiday. Smile, every smile in Tobago. That paradise, bung by Robinson Crusoe. And it is said, it's the land of tomorrow. Ronald Reagan say, come to Tobago for holiday. Now Bill Clinton say, come to Tobago for holiday. If you want a happy vacation, you can get it right here in my land. If you want a happy vacation, you can get it right here in my land.
The Street 919 FM and the Tobago Updates presents the Tobago Updates Morning Show live simulcast on the Street 919 FM. Start your day with all the information you want and need with the simulcast of the Tobago Updates Morning Show live Mondays to Fridays from 7 a.m. on the Street 919 FM, the official station that defends the nation.
Good morning, put a smile on your
Welcome back to the Minority Report this evening. And as promised, I have with me in studio this evening a very special guest. And I'm still saying using the term guest, even though I think he's more becoming a fixture on the Minority Report program, and that is none other than Senator the Honorable Lawrence Hislop.
Hi, Marlon, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
We say a pleasant good night to your viewership, to your growing viewership, yeah?
Amen.
And to Tobago in general.
I love how you use the term growing.
Yeah,
because this program, I think, is really something that a lot more persons, as we go along, because of the different elements of the program,
right,
that we tend to be able to feature. But this evening, we have you on set. And again, one of the things that we've always said at the Minority Report and the Minority Council is that part of the function is also to bring a level of education, to expose Tobagonians to a lot of what is taking place, so that persons can connect dots, that persons can effectively understand what is taking place in the space of governance, not only in Tobago, but also Trinidad and Tobago. So it puts us in a better position to make informed decisions.
Correct.
And so this evening, as with our guest, we're going to be discussing a bit now. Senator Lawrence, you have been recently appointed. However, I know that many persons in this space may not understand fully what the role of a senator is and how does that role impact us here in Tobago. So I want to ask you first of all to share with us a bit in terms of what is the role of a senator in the government framework.
Well, first and foremost, I am not your member of parliament in the sense that I am not a member of parliament for a constituency, but I am a member of parliament. The role of the senator speaks to having that voice and vote as it relates to legislation, as it relates to laws that govern Trinidad and Tobago. So being a senator from Tobago without a ministerial portfolio is only geared towards being part of the mechanism that creates laws in Trinidad and Tobago. It is also one of advocacy. So you may not see a senator without a portfolio setting up an office like your MPs would do for an office there and stuff like that. But the senator still has a listening ear and a voice of advocacy. So it is not necessarily one where you may stand and advocate for a particular constituency, but really and truly you are advocating for all of Trinidad and Tobago. And in this regard, I am advocating primarily for Tobago. And so the advocacy does not have to be, it's not one that may be very vocal, but it is one that can be seen from the standpoint of quiet negotiation or quiet advocacy. It gives you the ability to be in the space where the decision makers are and ask questions and share on behalf of Tobago for the benefit of Tobago. So in this regard, it gives Tobago actually three direct voices in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. And so if you look at it from a per capita standpoint, Tobago is actually doing very good in terms of voice in the Parliament than any other constituency, because you have two Tobago, East Tobago West, and then you have a senator who's living here, based here, works here, so understands Tobago and understands. So it gives Tobago an additional voice.
So I'm glad that you cleared that up, because many persons, and you would have explained a bit in terms of the role of the MPs or members of parliament, who are the elected representatives by way of the general election.
Yes.
And so they represent the Tobago East and West constituencies, and they are the direct representatives for those constituents that make up those two constituencies. But having a senator from Tobago in that parliamentary space as well, as you say, adds to the voice in terms of matters of legislative situations as well that can benefit Tobago. Now, we would have recently seen budget presentation of estimates and so forth.
Right.
Tell us a bit in relation to that, because those estimates get down to the parliament and they are now debated they're added to the entire budgetary discussion, and there's a debate that takes place.
Right.
What role would the voices that represent Tobago play in ensuring that Tobago gets a reasonable allocation?
But even before we get to that, just to add as well to the roles and functions, just as members of parliament, your members of parliament would sit on parliamentary committees. As a senator, you are also nominated to sit on parliamentary committees that would deliberate in greater detail on particular state agencies and so on. So whereas the senator may not always speak in an open parliament sitting, when it comes to parliamentary committees, joint select committees and so on, it gives the senator direct contact with state agencies to ask pertinent questions, and to also be part of the decision making going forward. So as it relates to the budget allocations and the debates that take place, well, the reality is, as I said, it's an additional voice. So you have the two MPs from Tobago in the lower house that will advocate for Tobago, and will advocate for whatever is good for Tobago. And it's the same thing that would happen in the upper house. You have a voice directly from Tobago that will advocate for what is best in a holistic picture, because some people say that the Tobago MPs and the Tobago senators don't say anything, and they're just there as tokens. But all the predecessors before me would deny that, and could give you evidence of what they would have done specifically that affected Tobago. And so you may not always hear your MP very loudly or your senator very loudly, but that doesn't mean that they're not speaking on behalf of Tobago. It's not about coming out and bragging about what has been done, but work gets done behind the scenes that benefits Tobago. So when it comes to the budgetary allocations, yeah, we have our time in Parliament to speak during the debate, as well as for the MPs, your standing finance committee would be able to drill down on certain things more specifically as it relates to the budget allocation.
Okay, very, very quickly, and I just want to, as we go along, there are some questions and comments that are coming in, and I'm seeing one. This is a question, I believe. Good night to the panel. When would the MPs for Tobago East and West be on the program?
Well, that's what you to answer, man. That's
what I can say to the viewer or the listener is that by public request, the invitation would be sent out, and we trust that in a short space of time that we can have the participation. Right. And again, this widens the conversation so that persons get an appreciation as to the roles and the functions of even the MPs.
Correct.
In terms of their levels of representation. I also want to there's another question that comes. How does your senatorship assist in securing the internal self-governance? It's a heavy question.
And it's a fair question when it speaks to legislation, because that's what the role of a senator is in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. You are part of the legislative process, and people may downplay it, but a vote by a senator in the Senate speaks to the creation of legislation and the implementation of legislation. So there is a significant role to play. We know that presently the internal self-government bill is in committee stage, but there has to be buy-in from all parties for that to come out of committee stage, because the reality is we know where the opposition sits with the internal self-government bill, and it requires a constitutional majority to have that fully enacted for Tobago, for the benefit of Tobago. And if we don't have, the PNM does not have a constitutional majority to enact, a special majority I should say, to fully implement the internal self-government. So it is in committee stage, and we will see if it comes out of committee stage before Parliament is dissolved. But it has to come out.
Well said.
And I think Tobagonians should really and truly, if Tobagonians are fully on board with the internal self-government bill, you need to petition the opposition and to let the opposition know that Tobagonians want the internal self-government bill that is in committee stage, because that's we don't have the votes to fully implement it. You need that special majority that includes votes from the opposition in order to fully enact it.
Very interesting piece of advice there coming from Senator Lawrence Hislop. We're in studio and the Minority Report, and we have this evening as our guest Senator Lawrence Hislop, the Honorable Senator Lawrence Hislop, and we are actually doing a sit down and getting some insight as we discuss the role of the senator in the House of Representatives or in the Parliament, and what is there to benefit. We're going to take a short break, and when we get back, we're going to have a bit of discussion in terms of what was some of the debates and the presentations made thus far in the Parliament by Senator the Honorable Lawrence Hislop, and how does this have the capability to impact what we see taking place in Tobago. So stay logged on, share the live, share the live, share the live, and we'll be right back.
There we go to Tobago, that paradise, bung by Robinson Crusoe. And it is said, it's the land of tomorrow. Princess Margaret say, come Tobago for holiday. Now the whole world say, come Tobago for holiday. Smile, every smile, every smile in Tobago, that paradise found by Robinson Crusoe. And it is said, it's the land of tomorrow. Ronald Reagan say, come Tobago for holiday. Now Bill Clinton say, come Tobago for holiday. If you want a happy vacation, you can get it right here in my land. If you want a happy vacation, you can get it right here in my land.
And we're back this evening on the Minority Report, and we're chatting here with Senator the Honorable Lawrence Hislop, appointed senator in the House. And I mean, we're having a very interesting discussion this evening, very educational. I know that so far a lot of persons are more clear, we have received a lot more clarity in terms of the role that the senator plays and how the senator from Tobago represents Tobago. I want us to touch a bit on some of the things that you would have presented on in the House, and so persons can understand the role that Tobago and the Tobago House of Assembly plays in actually impacting the conversation. And I wanted to begin this evening with the Local Government Reform Bill. Brilliant presentation. I listened to you, and it was your maiden contribution. And I think it went a long way in terms of really setting the stage or the platform for that debate on the local government reform. Tell us a bit about it.
Well, so I'll give you the personal side of it before we get into the legislative side. I'm a public speaker. I've preached all over the place, and I'm comfortable behind a podium. But there's something that's different about contributing in the House, in the Senate, and so I must say, being a human, I was nervous, it being my maiden contribution, but I think it went across well. We were dealing with the local government reform bill, to look at reforming the local government structure in Trinidad. And I think Tobagonians should be very proud in the sense that a majority of what would be done with that reform would mirror the Tobago House of Assembly to some extent.
Wow.
So it is now going to the municipal corporations. Well, they're not going to have a chief secretary and all of that, but they're going to have secretaries of divisions, and now there would be clear lines of communication and clear lines of management in the corporation, because some of the information I got as to how the corporations function now, one of the reasons why you have in terms of delivery maybe a bit slow is because of the method that is used now in the local government construct. So what the reform is seeking to do is to really and truly give responsibility or more responsibility to the local government, the municipal corporations, to have stuff done in their districts, but also give them the funding to do it. So one of the key things that will go along with the local government reform is the property tax, because what is proposed is that the property tax would now be the major financial mechanism for local government reform. So the taxes that are collected within a municipal corporation will be spent within the municipal corporation. So it's no longer corporations having to go through the local government minister, then from the local government minister to Minister of Finance. The Minister of Finance, just as it is done in the Tobago construct, the Minister of Finance and the Secretary of Finance lays in terms of funding. So there will no longer be this Ministry of Local Government that sits between these two ministries. The same way as if a particular project has to be done in a corporation. What pertains now is that the corporation sees the need for something to be done. They send it to local government. Local government sends a team to look at the project and then determine whether or not they have the funding to do it. And then that is then sent to the Minister of Finance. And then more often than not, the Ministry of Finance never sends all of the allocation for the project. And by that time, you're talking about a year has passed when this project could have been completed already. So it will create a better management structure within the local government corporation. So the citizens, the burgesses of the corporations should see better service delivery once the local government reform is fully implemented. And I honestly think, because in my contribution I made the correlation as to the level of development in Tobago. It is because Tobago has that level of autonomy that says, okay, fine, we'll fix our roads, we'll do this, we'll do that, right? So if the corporations have the required funding and the management structure to do it, then you should see better service delivery for what the corporations are responsible for.
I just want to peg on that word that you just used, autonomy. And again, many persons are of the opinion in the autonomy conversation that Tobago is now looking for autonomy. And I think many persons don't understand that Tobago already has a measure of autonomy. And the conversation is really to take or to push that standard further towards greater autonomy. And again, the fact that you could have stated and iterated that the model that was used to fuel this discussion, or the framework of the presentation, is the Tobago House of Assembly. Because over the years, we've been able to see significant development.
What management we've seen in Tobago, what good management and the funding for good management can produce.
Yeah.
Because when you compare, the reality is when you compare what and to me there isn't really a comparison, because Tobago is really it's larger than a municipal corporation in terms of the management structure. But if you could take a small piece of what Tobago does and translate that into the local government system, then you will see greater development and greater service delivery in Trinidad. I believe that.
That's so true.
Yeah.
And I mean, even when we look at over the past 20 or so years in terms of what we've been able to achieve here on the island.
Yeah. And my contribution did speak directly to...
That's where I was going, so I wanted you to be able to expand on that a bit.
Did speak directly to what Tobago, and I'm saying Tobago deliberately, because it's Tobago. Yes, it was a PNM administration in power over the 20 years, let's say 16 to 20 years, that especially the 16 years when Mr. London was in power. So it is Tobago that benefited from this Tobago House of Assembly construct, and as I always say, if we are truly honest with ourselves and we look at the level of development that has taken place in Tobago over that 16-year span into the 21-year span, there is no doubt about the level of development. And as I mentioned in the contribution, that it is commonly said by our brothers and sisters who visit us from Trinidad that they are blown away by the level of development in Tobago, the roads, the infrastructure, and I always go further than the infrastructure. I always talk about the people development, because that is one of the things that Mr. London was very strong on. It is not just about infrastructure development, but it is about people development. And what Tobago was able to do over that period is significant. And even if we decide to go back to the chairmanship of Mr. Robinson and all of these guys leading up to Sir Davidson and Mr. Charles being the first chief secretary, and we've seen the strides Tobago has made in the Tobago House of Assembly construct. I think just a small piece of that being used in Trinidad is going to benefit Trinidad.
And again, Jess, I'm glad, I'm liking the discussion in terms of the development, because of the model that we're using in the THA. And again, I want to remind us here in Tobago that we don't become what the Bible calls ungrateful, because many voices echo about change and about getting things done differently and so on, failing to recognize what we've been able to achieve just in the last 20, 21, 22 years.
And it's significant.
Significant. And I can even use an example. I had a short trip recently, and I've been to different Caribbean islands. And this is not even for the sake of comparing or referencing Trinidad. I'm referencing with Tobago. And when you travel around the Caribbean and you see what other islands offer and what they have in terms of their development, we can appreciate where we have come from and where we've been. And one of the things that really stood out to me on that last trip to St. Lucia was a conversation that we had with a friend there who's a teacher. And she was explaining that the oldest secondary school on the island in terms of public is 50 years old. And in terms of overall, the oldest school is like 70 years. And what that said to me is that there is an entire generation that grew up on that island that was not exposed to education. You know, and here in Tobago, we have educational institutions going in the 100+ years.
Yeah, we, you know, and and even if you go beyond that and speak about the amount of high schools per capita. I think I mentioned it before that when you consider, when you compare Tobago with CARICOM nations, Tobago is significantly better off. And some people may say, I want to say that we are significantly better off because of the union we have with our sister in Trinidad. Now that may sound un-Tobagonian, but that is the reality of this union called Trinidad and Tobago. Some people call it a forced union, but Tobago has benefited. When you compare Tobago with a lot of the other Caribbean nations, we have benefited. And if I should also make this plug, now when we talk about the construct of the Senate and senatorship, we also have to mention Dr. Dillon Remy, who is in Tobago. So Tobago actually has 4 voices in the parliament, and she is an independent senator.
Yeah.
So she doesn't have to, quote unquote, as we like to say, toe a party line. So she speaks as she is convinced to speak on a particular legislation as it relates to Tobago. So Tobago Tobago has benefited from the parliamentary structure in the sense that we have 4 voices well represented in the national parliament.
Wow. That is a lot of information, and we're speaking here this evening on Tobago Updates with Senator the Honorable Lawrence Hislop, and I mean the information is beyond valuable, and I know it's creating a lot clearer picture in the minds of many persons. Coming out of that particular presentation, I want to just go on to one of the next presentations that you would have made, and that is with respect to the sexual offences bill and so on. And we know, and we've seen several interviews on air, even right here on Tobago Updates, where the discussion or the conversation is being carried with respect to sexual offenses against women, against children, and so on. So it is definitely something that we have seen plaguing our society over a period of time. Now, the reality is that I think it is not necessarily that it has increased, but people have become more aware of it, and this is something, and I'm sure we can attest it, that back in the days that things would happen in communities, but nobody would say anything.
which is true.
It's a reality.
And one thing I want the viewership to also remember is that legislation is living. Because society changes.
Exactly.
And so the legislation because ever so often, because people think that we waste time in Parliament. There are people who think that we waste time in Parliament. Why? I know for the short time that I've been there, I have not wasted any time. Right? So ever so often you would hear that this particular piece of legislation, this law, is being amended and so on, and it is because society is living, is a living organism, and so things change, and because things change, amendments have to be made, and sometimes the amendments may be very, very, very minor. Sometimes it's 3 clauses that we may have to add to a parent act, but it is significant amendments because these things tighten up on loopholes that may have been there for a couple of years and so on. And so the work of the parliamentarian, the MPs and the senators play a significant role in the entire construct of Trinidad and Tobago. That's the reality. So when it comes to the sexual offences, if I remember clearly, it was just a few amendments that had to be made, but there were significant amendments that tightened up on the legislation and gave the legislation a little more teeth. And so as small as the amendments may be, and as short as a contribution may be, because each member of Parliament has about 45 minutes to make a contribution. I think I've I think I may have done only about 15 minutes on a contribution, 15, 20 minutes, if so long. And so no matter how short the contribution is, it is still significant, it's valuable, and it's recorded as history in Trinidad and Tobago that this contribution was made, no matter how short it is. Yeah.
So and again, I'm going to pull from even a recent interview done on Tobago Updates where the senior superintendent, Benjamin, was on and discussing how do you protect your children, how to identify or how to develop a safe or a safety network, as it were,
yes,
in terms of recognizing different things in the environment and so on. And these discussions, even though, and as you said, persons think that you all waste time in the parliament.
No, we don't.
And it is for that very reason why we are having this discussion this evening, because a population that understands the roles and the functions of those that represent them is a population that is more supportive,
right,
and a population that is more informed, and they're informed to make wise decisions. And so it is always our intent to equip our people with the necessary information that when they see things that they'll not be duped or fooled into just the squalor and the noise and so on. And that is something that we hold firmly here on the Minority Report, that we want to be able to provide information that is clear, that is concise, and allow people, and the intelligent people of this island, to be able to come to their own conclusions based on the information that is presented. We're going to go for a short break once again, and when we come back, we're going to ask Senator Hislop to give his closing remarks and share again some of his experiences that we know definitely as we go forward we're going to see the senator being of a lot greater benefit to the island of Tobago, and who knows what's in the future. So we'll be back shortly. Continue to share the live.
The Street 919 FM and the Tobago Updates presents the Tobago Updates Morning Show live simulcast on the Street 919 FM. Start your day with all the information you want and need with the simulcast of the Tobago Updates Morning Show live Mondays to Fridays from 7 a.m. on the Street 919 FM, the official station that defends the nation.
Good morning. Put a smile on your
Come, there we go to Tobago, that paradise, bung by Robinson Crusoe. And it is said, it's the land of tomorrow. Princess Margaret say, come Tobago for holiday. Now the whole world say, come Tobago for holiday. Smile, every smile in Tobago. That paradise, come by Robinson Crusoe. And it is said, it's the land of tomorrow. Ronald Reagan say, come Tobago for holiday. Now Bill Clinton say, come Tobago for holiday. If you want a happy vacation, you can get it right here in my land. If you want a happy vacation, you can get it right here in my land.
And we're back here on the Minority Report, Tobago Updates. We had a nice exit. I know this statement may have piqued a lot of persons' curiosity as to what I may have meant about the future. But we're not going to be making any announcements tonight. We're going to be continuing the discussion as we seek to wrap up the program. Before we do, I'm going to read one of the questions this evening again. Can the goodly senator share his view on the slow pace, or what this viewer determines to be the slow pace of the procurement bill?
Well, I know the Prime Minister would have spoken to it on Monday in the press conference. There was a recent meeting between the Attorney General's office and the procurement regulator. There are some fine details that are to be tied up, but I know that it is going to be fully enacted. I wouldn't be able to give a timeline in terms of that, but I know the Attorney General wants to dot all his I's and cross all his T's before it is fully rolled out, so that when it is rolled out, because I know there were some concerns, I think those concerns came from the judiciary side of it, and so once those things are dealt with and ironed out, it will be fully implemented. I have no doubt about that. Yeah. So it may be slow.
Response.
It may be slow, but
it will be sure.
It will be sure.
I just want to read, and I'm going to take this as a recommendation in terms of someone recommending that there be a meeting, and I'm just putting this out there for public knowledge, that there can be a meeting between the opposition leader and the chief secretary to discuss and involving the Prime Minister to discuss the people of Tobago's position on the autonomy conversation.
So weird. That's above my pay grade.
Exactly. And that's why I said I'm just reading out what the comment suggested. And another comment, this one was a question. If you can give your view on the recently concluded budget and budget debate. I know we would have had you on the program, and we had a bit of discussions. I don't know if you just want to give a blanket statement as we begin to wind down on that particular request.
Well, the THA is bound by statute to do something before a particular time, and it was done. It was presented in the House, and that has been, I believe, forwarded to the Ministry of Finance. As we would have heard, the Prime Minister would have said that more than likely there will be an early budget, so that the budget, quote unquote budget from Tobago, forms part of what the Minister of Finance will do with the national budget. My view on it is one that I think it may be a reach in terms of the quantum that was requested, but we have to wait and see what the Minister of Finance puts on the table, because the Tobago budget was pegged on a national budget of, I think it's 57 billion. Yeah. So first and foremost,
that's an assumption.
That's an assumption that that's what the Minister of Finance would place on the table. And then after you've made that assumption that is 57 billion will be the national budget, you have pegged the THA budget at a 6.9%, which is at the highest level as it relates to the Dispute Resolution Commission. So they're all assumptions. So we just have to wait until those assumptions, let's see what the reality is when the minister presents the budget. And then depending on what the reality is for Tobago, then the Tobago House of Assembly has to manage what the reality is. So it may not be, is what 3.9 billion I think is what the THA requested. It may be less. History has proven that it has been less, simply because, and the reality is when the Minister of Finance looks at Trinidad and Tobago, he looks at a national pie. So the THA looks at what it wants to get done in Tobago, and that's fair. There's nothing wrong with that. Just as all the ministries that submit their request to the Minister of Finance, also look within their ministry to see what they want to get done. And so they send that to the minister. But when the minister is looking, the minister has to look at a national pie. And then he decides based on revenue and expenditure and prospective revenue. He has to now decide, he and the technocrats at the Ministry of Finance will then decide how then do we, if Ministry of Works wants 5 billion, how close could we get to that? Right? In all reality, how close could we? Tobago wants 3.9 billion. How close could we get to that? So that work still goes on, there's still development, and it doesn't crash the country. Yeah.
Well said. And as we close off this segment, I'm just pegging on something that persons are saying, and I think this is more of a conspiracy theory.
What's that?
That the budget seemed to be very confrontational and laying a platform for the administration coming back to the people of Tobago and using the excuse that the central government didn't give them what they asked for.
Well, I don't know if the budget in itself is confrontational. I think the presentation may have been a bit confrontational.
Okay.
But I don't think figures can be confrontational. True. Numbers, dollars and cents can't be confrontational. How you present dollars and cents.
I think that's what the person may have been referring to.
So the presentation and the delivery may have been, well, not, I shouldn't say may, in some instances it was confrontational, right? But the dollars and cents isn't confrontational. So we just have to wait and see what transpires after the national budget. Let's see if it is, we are comfortable with what we have received, or Trinidad doesn't like us, so they haven't given us what we need. So
we're speaking with the Honorable Senator Lawrence Hislop. And Senator, I want you to give a closing remark, but I want that closing remark to be a reinforcement, as it were, of your role and function in relation to advancing Tobago and Tobagonians in the Senate and so on. And again, to add even greater value than what we've already been discussing to the minds of Tobagonians and reinforcing the commitment that you have to advancing Tobago.
But I think all Tobagonians should be proud, not just because of me, but I think Tobagonians should be proud that they have so much representation in the national parliament. Your two MPs, you have a government senator and an independent senator, and even one of the ministers in the Ministry of Agriculture, Tobagonian, went as a Tobago senator, and he's now a minister in the Ministry of Agriculture. That's Nigel De Freitas, and then your prime minister is a Tobagonian, and so the representation in the parliament is significant for Tobago. Tobago has benefited from being part of the union, and I continue to see my role as an advocate for Tobago. It is not one where I would have to shout at anybody, but there are times when you speak forcefully, there are times when you speak quietly, there are concerns you share, and I see myself as a team player. I'm part of a team, and the reality is Tobago, yes, the People's National Movement may be in the minority in Tobago, but the reality is that the People's National Movement is the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And so there has been significant benefits to Tobago under a PNM administration, past and present. And so simple things like, well, I shouldn't say simple, but significant expenditure, like the 2 fast ferries. That's a benefit for Tobago.
Major benefit.
That they were bought primarily because that's what they say is the Tobago boats. Yeah. Right? So those things are direct benefits of being part of the union. Quiet advocacy, leadership that is all inclusive, that sees Tobago as part of the nation. And so I will continue to speak for Tobago, continue to advocate for Tobago, continue to represent in the Senate, not only for my party, but for the people of Tobago. And so my role is one of advocacy, one of meeting and treating with the persons who are the decision makers. And so I am there to supplement your 2 MPs. I am there to supplement your 2 MPs in Tobago. So you have 3 members of parliament, well 4, right? But 3 government members of parliament you have that will be able to advocate for Tobago. Yeah?
Lawrence, thank you very much for the discussion this evening.
No problem, my brother.
Very, very valuable, very meaningful, and I'm sure it would have been able to shed a lot of light to many persons who would listen now on the live, and I know the views go up significantly after, because many persons replay the program. And I really want to thank you for being with us this evening.
Problem. My pleasure.
And for continuing to be a real sense of support and strength for the Minority Council, even on this program, the Minority Report. And we definitely going to continue to collaborate, to lend your voice and to collaborate in the voices of the minority leader, the Minority Council, and so on, as we raise the awareness of Tobagonians and to advance the true potential that is in this island, and under the right administration and the right governance structure and leadership. This evening, folks, I want to thank you for logging on to the Minority Report, and the discussions this evening have definitely been interesting, and we continue to push forward and we continue to roll out meaningful and educational programs when there is the opportunity to bring to the forefront things that we believe do not benefit Tobago, that is being rolled out on the administrative front by this administration. Then we're going to take the opportunity to highlight those things. But in a great sense, and I'll echo something that the minority leader and councillor normally say, is that they will represent and support everything that is good for Tobago and Tobagonians. And so on that note, I want to say thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for viewing this program, and continue to support the Minority Report as we continue to play that role as outlined in the Constitution through the legislature to the Tobago and Tobagonians. Have a wonderful night.